Hey everybody, welcome to this week's pastel painting. I am so excited to paint for you today. This piece is such a fun one that I love from a reference photo taken from Albuquerque. This reference photo was actually right outside of the little cute B&B that I stayed in, left that morning, and this was the little scene that greeted me outside of my door. Of course, Albuquerque is known for its Adobe buildings with all of the wonderful turquoise accents everywhere. And so I knew immediately when I saw this beautiful little scene with the doorway and the posts and kind of how the light was hitting those areas with the shadows and the vines, I knew I wanted to paint this painting. I'm sketching in my largest shapes and just the general outline of the building and the vines, bushy shapes that they are, but of course with the more linear lines of the building. This is a more square image. Of course, I'm making it, I'm not necessarily painting it as a square. This is a 9 by 12 piece of Wallace paper. What I like to do with my building paintings or any type of man-made structure in the landscape is I really love to nestle them into the foliage and the greenery and nature around them. And so of course this reference photo was exactly that, this little doorway that is very sheltered by these vines. That's exactly what I love to paint because my job becomes easier. I don't have to be so careful to make sure all of the lines are very straight and lined up. Of course I am careful about that kind of stuff, but the way that those man-made structures weave in and out of our land and out of in front of and behind of foliage really helps convey a softer effect to the buildings instead of being such a harsh blocky outline against the sky or against trees or whatever. It just helps with that mystery and that really cool painterly impressionistic quality that we all love. I began by sketching on, this is actually a piece of rare Wallace paper that they no longer make, but this texture is very similar. It is a sanded paper. It's very similar to Pastel Premier to me and my experience of working with sanded papers, and I just really wanted to work with it. I haven't used it in a while. I am going to be using some watercolor on it here in a minute and just kind of testing to see how the paper will handle the watercolor. It does buckle it a little bit, but it's not anything that I can't handle. Right now you see that I have just put in the major dark shapes of like where the doorway is, the shadows of the bushes, where the darkest parts are. And then I'm also swiping with that rubbing alcohol just to blend those areas to create more of a mid-tone value. I'm using a flat glazing brush right here. I really like this brush. It's just really soft. It picks up a lot of pastel so I can move it around, especially if I'm wanting to do this effect where I'm picking up the pastel and then painting with it in other areas. And so I'm just swiping that in. This is rubbing alcohol and a very kind of dark purple, very cool purple, almost a blue hard pastel. And now what I'm doing is I'm using my fan brush and I'm going to start putting in some brighter, lighter values and colors into where the bushes will be. This is kind of a fun experimental way to play using different types of underpainting mediums. So I used the alcohol and hard pastel, and now I'm using regular watercolors in different colors, mostly bright blues, bright greens, oranges, very bright yellows. The watercolors I have are actually almost more of a gouache because they can be pretty opaque. You'll see that effect in a minute because I really wanted to add those bright highlights of color already present in my underpainting where that bright light is hitting that far left bush. This is just a fun way to add some color so you play with your pastels on top and not worry so much about your color choices. If you use fun colors underneath, those can still peek through and you can use more local or realistic colors on top. I'm still building the watercolor here. I'm going to speed it up a little bit so you can we can get to the pastel portion of this video. I'm just putting these colors around, putting those are the background trees that are behind the rooftop of this building. Like I said, make sure you look at the reference photo and you can kind of see how it's a curved building and there's a little bit of sky showing up at the top. But I'm just adding in some greens here. There's a little arbor there that's over this doorway, and I'm going to add in some of that bright color. Using my fan brush, kind of pushing it around, using the special quality of the fan brush and how it splays out to really create that fun texture. This is that kind of gouache watercolor that I was telling you about. It's a very bright yellow, and this is actually just a regular watercolor, but it's very opaque, and you can see that I just added over and it just already creates that highlight that we're going to paint with our pastels in the pastel layers. How is this not mixed media? Well, it is mixed media to a certain extent. I'm a member of the Pastel Society of America, among other organizations strictly for pastels, and when they hold exhibits, gallery exhibits, or competitions around the country or around the world, if you are using an 80% of a particular medium, so in this case, if 80% of the final piece of this painting surface is pastel, it's considered strictly just a pastel painting versus a mixed media. And there's a lot of people who they really like to just use pastel, or they like to just use watercolor, or be very more pristine with their medium. I like to mix it up because that creates a lot of transparency and fun, and I love the texture I can get with brushwork underneath the pastel marks, and so that's why I choose to do more of the underpaintings. This roof line of this Adobe building. Now, Adobe is really interesting and fun to paint. The shadows of Adobe are usually on the more purple or mauve side, and that's because the shadow color is actually the color of the sky mixing with the color of the Adobe. And so, of course, Adobe is more orange, more ochre colored. And so whenever you mix blue with any kind of oranges, you're going to get more of the purples, pinks, mauves. The same effect takes place when you're painting. In my case, I don't have a lot of Adobe where I am in Texas, but we do have a lot of orange, red dirt. And so whenever I paint my canyon pieces that I often paint, those shadows are also very purple and very mauve. And so those are always great colors to have, those mauves and purples, if you love to paint more of the Southwest scenes. And of course, right now I'm just very loosely gesturing in kind of the general shape of where the sunlight is and where the shadow parts are. I'm not really trying to be very defined right now. I'm just really trying to bring in some brighter values and those more orange values, since the majority of my piece right now is all greens and orangey greens and those dark cool greens, and just the watercolor version, the watercolor underpainting. Just trying to bring in some brighter values and different colors here. I'm using real scribbly marks here. This is something that I'm actually working on in my own artwork. I don't want everything to be always so perfect. I also added a little bit of blue up there. Of course, the Southwest is known for our very, very blue skies. That's something that's so beautiful against the orange of the land, or in this case of the Adobe. Right now I'm putting in some more of that light scumbling over that part of the sky. The left-hand part, it's a little bit lighter at this point, but I'm just wanting to create harder edge that is known. This is what Albuquerque, Taos, Santa Fe are known for. Clear blue skies against that beautiful Adobe colors. It just makes it's very iconic, and that's what the story I want to tell with this painting. So I'm picking the darkest color turquoise first. doorway is actually tucked in behind these posts. And so I'm just choosing this very, very dark turquoise to be the base color. I'm always thinking trying to start darker and moving my way up in value, moving my way up lighter. So adding the darker colors first will help you. So you can see here that I'm adding that lighter color to where that the sunlight may be hitting that post. This is going to be like I normally paint, an ebb and flow to adding detail, adding value, maybe even subtracting it then again. You can have subtractive painting as well, to where you add something and then you take it away slightly to create the effect that you want. I'm starting to work a little bit more on the bushes or on the vines on the side. This was a very quick picture that I took on my iPhone. I didn't go over and investigate necessarily what type of plant it was. I just really liked the shadows and this little area with these beautiful turquoise posts. And so I'm just adding in, this is a Terry Ludwig spring green. It's a kind of a darker value. It's a very true green, and it's considered to me a darker color. Of course, it's a medium value compared to the dark of the underpainting that I used. So it's kind of in my opinion, a bridge value. And so right now I'm bringing in that lighter value. This is almost a yellow green. And it's of course where the sunlight is hitting that bush the most. This is a Terry Ludwig eggplant pastel. I could have used charcoal here, but I chose the Terry Ludwig eggplant because it has those purple tones that are also within the Adobe and in the shadows and all of that stuff. But unfortunately, my camera shut off and I missed a step right there. You just saw the transition where I added a darker, a more pure toned purple over the eggplant. I also worked a little bit on the bushes. Now I'm just using a pencil to gesture in and some linear lines that help tell the story that that door is actually wood.
Hi everybody, it's Bethany and I'm here in my studio. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you learned something today, I would love it if you would give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and also click that little notification bell so you can know whenever I have a new video coming up. If you'd also love to support this content coming out, I would love it if you would consider visiting my Patreon page. The link is below. I'm so excited to be bringing these lessons to you weekly, and I hope you're excited too. Bye.